Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, that's cool. It's cool. So, as we get closer to I've got so I try to just get some kids
Second. All in favor, say aye. The personnel report is no certified staff. This is recommendation of classified staff is Amy Creech Lane as temporary first grade assistant, James Porter, part-time Title I assistant, David Heath, corporation bus driver, Riley Carrot, cafeteria employee at the middle school, Cheryl Davis, cafeteria employee at the middle school, and TCSC staff recommendation of hiring Walker as sixth grade girls basketball coach. Second, all in favor, say aye. Next, I want to acknowledge the acceptance of donation from Ned Chop in memory of her husband, Daniel Chop. They donated $1,000 to high school basketball club. And ask the donation be accepted and approved. Motion is second to approve the donation. All in favor, say aye. Next on the agenda, election of officers, reorganization board. Motion, someone for the president.
I'll make a motion for Gary Plummer to be elected as our board president.
Second. Anyone else? Hearing none. Yes, clerk president. Next is nominations for vice president.
I'd like to make a motion to elect Gary Johnson as our board vice president.
Any other nominations? Hearing none. Declare Gary Johnson vice president. Next is selection of the secretary position. Any nominations for secretary?
I'd like to nominate Ms. April to continue in that one.
Anyone else? Declare April Ogar secretary of the school board. Congratulations, everyone. Next is appointment of treasurer and executive secretary of the board. It's recommended that Amy Phillips be appointed as the treasurer, Don Denville as the executive secretary of the board. Nomination or a motion for approve this.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye. And next up is the establishment of our meeting date and time. It's recommended we maintain our current meeting date and time as the second Tuesday of each month at 6:30 p.m. Motion to approve that. Second. Motion is second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. Next up is the superintendent's report. Mr. Grimsby. Oh, okay. Fine. So, too quickly. Next, we are adjourning the regular session for a Board of Finance meeting. That is a separate agenda. parts. The second part is a meeting of the Board of Finance that we are required to hold annually in January. We have 4 functions: to elect a president and secretary, and 2, to name the depository for corporation funds, 3, to receive and review investment report, and 4, to receive a report of the financial condition of the community school corporation. Next is the election of officers. There's a nomination for president.
I'd make a nomination to nominate Gary Plummer as president and enroll as secretary.
Nomination for president and secretary. President Gary Plummer, secretary April Ludendorff. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Next is designation of fathers to the school corporation.
Just announcing we did use the first farmer taking trust as a repository for corporation funds in 2018. We currently have checking funds, like federal funds, a sweep account or a savings account, and so we recommend the board approve first farmer taking trust as our repository for corporation funds.
Second. Motion second for the first farmer taking trust. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Okay, and then a review of investment. We make the investment report available to the board members as part of our monthly financial report. Monthly report for December, also the report for the end of the year. The investment earnings for 2019, $166,443.40. This compares to $130,567 for 2018. So about $36,000. Investment that because of the large cash balances we had in there sitting, so we're all happy with that. We also maintain a repurchasing agreement account or charge cards through the NO Insurance Bank, and recommend the board accept this report as presented.
Approve the investment report. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Next item, a review of the overall investment policy of the corporation. We have one policy pertaining to investments, policy 6144, investment income. And this policy simply provides for the corporation traders make investments with available money for the purpose of maximizing the returns on our cash balances. And I would attach a copy of that policy to the agenda for your review. No actions, that policy is already adopted, was needs more thorough review and consideration and policy review process. Okay. And finally, the new item, written report on financial condition of the corporation. Again, during this financial meeting, we must receive a written report on the financial condition of the school corporation. We're reporting on the corporation's financial condition. We look at fiscal and qualitative indicators. They're determined by the Fiscal and Qualitative Indicator Committee at the state, and this is used as the basis of the report, and then that report's been attached. And what I've done, I simply have gone through the stress unit of Field Board's website, DUAB, and pulled off that report, give you a little bit of background as far as the legal requirements on this, that this committee was established back in 2018 to review what they felt were fiscal and qualitative indicators. This came about because of situations in Gary and Muncie where the school corporations bankrupt and had to be taken over by the state. So this committee was established to identify these indicators to help schools prevent them going into situations like Gary and Muncie. So it kind of developed these red flags saying, okay, you got this trend flowing, you might want to deal with this before you get financial distress. So that's the purpose behind that. So last year they did go through some of this, and some schools were notified, we were not one of them. But the indicators are listed there with their date of them, the average daily membership, or the APM, Fund balances was taken off the Form 9 and submitted each year. Annual deficit and surplus. Fund balances as a percent of expenditures. Tuition support per ADM compared to the general fund or education fund expenditures per ADM. Revenue by type. Operating and referendum revenue as a percent of the total revenue. That does not apply to us since we do not have an active referendum. And then general fund salaries and benefits as a percent. So one of the red flags, of course, and we've talked about this, is the declining enrollment for Pittman. Many middle schools are finding this too. We were down 1.3% from the previous year. We peaked with this in 2011. Our peak was 2015 when we had 1,712 students. 2019, we had 1,532. And of course, we've got the given report a couple years ago showing that the population in Tipping County is declining, especially school-age students. So, and that trend will continue for some time. Fund balances, like I said, is something that's fairly positive. But again, if we start to tap into that, last December, we gave approval for additional appropriation to spend money out of the cash balances to meet our expenses. Again, that's a growing trend that we're going to keep an eye on very carefully. Make sure it does not get into a serious situation. But again, what we're going to take a look at is decline enrollment. With talk about that here, and one of the other items is the expenditures and what we have. But then the annual deficit and surplus provides comparison of revenue to expenditures for calendar years. That's in pretty good shape for Tiffin. The fund balances as a percent of expenditures. And talking with Dr. Schultz of Marion, the Chief Financial Officer, he recommended minimum 8.3% fund balances or 1 month of expenditures. We set that at 3 months or 25%. This particular report you see shows all the fund balances, and it's only 52.3, which is pretty high. But keep in mind it's somewhat inflated because of a healthy rainy day fund that will be happening here. And also the operation fund is higher than usual at 86%. Again, because we've been relying on pinning down our bond issue instead of having into the operation so much. And again, this was into 2019, so we really haven't got a full effect of the change in the budget with the general funds, turn over the education fund, and the other capital projects, transportation, bus replacement, all one into the operation. With that, if you look at that, you go onto the website and interact with, so you look at each individual fund. The general fund cash balance is 17.5%. So that's kind of like that, right there, that way. So the cash balances are in good shape right now, but again, we're going to start seeing those go down, so it's something we're going to have to monitor very carefully in the upcoming years. Tuition support. This is our largest revenue source for the corporation general fund. And it's what we get per student, so that's why the ADM is very important. And since 2017, we have expended more per student enrollment than we received in tuition support. And knowing this going into it, our goal is to reduce this gap and reverse that trend. But in 2017, with students going down, we did take on some additional expenditures, and back to Washington and deal with. Revenue by type, this just shows you where the money's come from, and we've got a pretty lengthy data source that takes a look at each revenue source and what that's looked like from 2011 to 2018. Take a look at that. But again, the 7 operating referendum and the point was the general fund salaries. It's desirable to maintain salaries and benefits right about 90% or below. For us, we are 96.5, and anytime you get over 95%, that's something we need to watch. So, and I share that with the budget report, we're we're spending 96.5 on salaries and benefits. And you got to reduce your budget. I mean, that's where it's going to be. So we're going to be taking a look at our staffing for this year. We got a second ADM count coming in February. We'll take a look at and use that and start see if there's some cuts we need to make in personnel to be as efficient as possible. We want class size to be reasonable, but also we want to be efficient in our function and watching our trends and react to them appropriately. So,
Is reduction in staff the only strategy to reduce that number?
but it's 96% of the budget in education. That's about the only place to look at. Yes. I mean, what the supplies with that less than 5%, so we're not going to need to cut that one. And our health insurance and the benefits, I think we're as cost effective as possible with those. Being part of the trust, our rates went up 5-7% this year, which is very well compared to some other schools in this area that walk out of the trust or has other insurance policies. Well, the rest of the report is just pointing off of the graph from the U.S. website, so you can take a look at those. I encourage you to go to the website that we can interact with some of those things where you look at all the funds together, or if you want to just see what it looks like with the general fund, you can look at that, click on that, or just want to see what the operational fund is, you can look at that. In summary, we're in good shape right now, but with the EDM and again, the salaries, that's something that we're going to have to take a look at. That'll probably be higher this year, but we did raise our salaries. They're much needed. We need to raise those salaries to be competitive and treat our staff well and reasonable. We still have a long ways to go, but that does have consequences. We have to be prepared to deal with it.
Will this report be published on the website?
We're not required to, but we're likely we can put that on our list. Or to do a website open to the public too, so the public can go to that website this weekend, just like I did.
Yeah, that's why I figured all this information is public knowledge.
Right.
I mean, we publish it.
So
Maybe
the things link on to the website so people know what to take a look at. Main thing is make sure you choose the school corporation, otherwise you're going to be looking at Adam Central. I'm sure Adam Central gets a lot of folks to scroll down, choose something to take a look at who the school corporation has.
So the biggest challenge, you mentioned ADM count. For 3 or 4 years now, we've been graduating 130 kids. We've been replacing them with 100 kids in kindergarten for 3 or 4 years. So kids aren't fleeing, we're just not replacing them as good. So that's dragging the trend to 96%. And those 100 kid classes are now what? 4th and 5th grade? K through 4. And they're going to matriculate through the system. Hopefully we can grow the younger classes as part of our community strategy and school strategy.
We're starting that conversation. We have had a conversation with the school, but those smaller classes come up. Those schools don't look like. Those schools operating on the 450 kids. When you get 300 kids, we can't operate the same way.
Those growing ADM numbers reduced at 96.5%, closer to 90.
Okay, sorry.
We can grow the ADM count. That's
Right.
the base of,
Yeah, more information, more students.
Do we need a motion to publish this on the website, or generate a free?
Okay, first thing I point out, first thing on spotlighting one of the schools and middle school. So This is the accountants here, and just a little background. One of the things we've been working on for the last couple of years is looking at our instructional framework. We did a lot last year with meeting the emotional needs of students and looking at different things and such. And then finally, last spring, we decided we're going to focus in on universal design for learning. And so we've identified Ashley at the middle school, and Melinda Fanani at the high school, and Christina Pohl here at the elementary has become our UDL leaders. And they've been immersing themselves in UDL, Universal Design for Learning. That's something the board really needs to think about as they look for a new superintendent. If somebody who's not necessarily knowledgeable, but at least will embrace and support the effort we've already put in for UDL and continue that on. So to give you a better understanding of what UDL is, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Picta and let her take it from here.
Hi, thank you. So the middle school has been working very, very hard on our UDL initiative, and not just what that looks like in the classroom, but really trying to reframe kind of the way that us as educators and staff members in the school are looking at the ways that students are learning and how we can best support them. So I've asked Mrs. LeCount, she is our 8th grade literature teacher, and she's also our school's UDL expert, to come in and speak with us a little bit about what UDL looks like and what we're doing with that in the middle school and K through 12, because it is similar. We're trying to keep all of the schools doing the same thing. And then specifically some of the stuff that she's doing and kind of showcasing in her classroom as kind of an example and a model. And then we're not exactly sure how much information you guys have on it, so we kind of have some question and answer session. So if you guys want a little bit more information, then we can.
Okay, so very teachery, obviously. So if you, I do this a lot with my students to gauge the knowledge. So like she said, I'm not quite sure where you guys are with the knowledge of UDL. So I always tell them thumbs up if you're like, I'm the expert, thumbs down, I have no clue, and then there's that in between. So can I see where we're at? Oh, yeah. Dang. I like it when it's down there because that means you're going to learn something today, right? So, oh, it's okay. I might just pop that content.
And you get to really experience what it's like in the classroom.
Yeah.
Tech problems.
Yes, I do have, because like I said, if they're a teachery, I have to have some model. Yeah. Okay, so just starting off with what is UDL, since we were a lot down here. The definition that you get on the CAST website, which if you do go to the CAST website, they are like loaded with all this UDL information. So I grabbed that little definition from the CAST website. It says Universal Design for Learning, which is UDL, is a framework to improve and optimize teaching and learning for all people based on scientific insights into how humans learn. Sounds great and peachy and super fun, and definitely something that we want to do, but sounds like the magic answer, and it is in a way. It just takes some time to get there and to adjust those mindsets. And like I said at the bottom, it is not something that we just do. I don't just do UDL, but it's more of a belief and a mindset that teachers are shifting into. So the whole aspect behind this UDL is that kind of like those sliding doors. It's a nice little analogy that when we first think about designing something, we first had the door that we just pushed open, right? And so not everyone can use the door that we just push open or pull. And so they created this universal design of a sliding door. Now everyone can go through those doors. So that same type of concept in our classrooms. And then this little comic, which is very, if you look up UDL, you see this comic everywhere. The guy is shoveling the the stairs, and this kid on the in the wheelchair, he's saying, "Could you please shovel the ramp?" And he says, "Well, all these other kids are waiting to use the stairs. When I get through shoveling them off, then I will clear the ramp for you." And he says, "But if you shovel the ramp, we can all get in, you know." And so this idea, like I said, of creating and planning and thinking about the way that we do our classrooms or the way that we present our information in a way that will reach all. Okay. So why? We did this a couple of different things in the middle school, at least, where we tried to identify who is our ideal student and what is our ideal school. And like I said, that's something we all strive for, okay? And in our middle school, we came up with all these little words, and Ms. Kikto put this into a nice little word cloud, and you can kind of see some of those big things that we want as a school to be known for. And then with our students, we want them to be engaged, and we want them to be compliant, right? But more than anything, we want them to be those expert learners who just take it into their own hands. And again, we want that to be for everyone, but when you get into the classroom, you know that's not always the case. So UDL concepts kind of help us get to that ideal. So what is UDL and what does it look like when you're planning? This little graphic here, you start with the goal. It really emphasizes the goal. And if you go through teaching classes, they tell you that all the time. You know, you need to know your goal so that when you teach that lesson, that your students know what they're expected to learn by the end of that class. But with UDL, it's really emphasized start with your goal. And then think about those barriers, those individual barriers. As a teacher, I'm already thinking when I'm planning a lesson on such and such, fact and opinion or something like that, I already know who those students are that are going to be too quiet to speak up, or those students who are going to be way too loud and I need to control. And I get to know my students throughout the year on purpose. Like I try to not just teach them the content, but also get to know them, how they act, how they learn the best, and then I use those barriers that I know of into my lessons so that, again, I'm getting those sliding doors, I'm shoveling the ramp for them so I can meet them all. Some ways to do that is to create choice boards. I've already started doing some of those things in my own classroom where I create, for example, I did where we were learning how to do credible sources. And in a normal class, I would just teach about what credible sources are and have them go find the credible source that I wanted them to have, like a website or something, and then prove it and go on. Where I could create a choice board like I did this time around, where I said, okay, I just need you to find a credible source. It can be a podcast, it can be a YouTube video, it can be a website, it can be a newspaper. Because the skill, the goal, what I wanted them to do was to find a credible source. The way they get there, that's where, like I put this little GPS thing at the bottom, the way they get there can be different, right? And that actually helps some of those students. And here in a little bit, I'll show you an example of what that kind of looks like. That I did with our staff, which was pretty fun. A gym class example that was in a book that I read for UDL was the goal is to understand heart rate. Okay, the goal is to understand heart rate. So the gym teacher usually has them run the mile and then check their heart rate, right? But there are different ways to assess if the student can figure out heart rate, right? They could watch a YouTube video on heart rate and create a type of presentation that shows that. There are just a whole bunch of different ways. Small ways to use UDL, like using captions in the YouTube video when you're watching it with the class. This was something that just blew my mind because I always thought the captions were for those who were disabled in being able to hear. Like they couldn't hear it from the back of the room or something like that. Well, when I started putting captions on my videos, it actually helped me too. I don't have any problems with hearing, but when I started seeing the captions on the videos, I'm like, yeah, that helps me too. And so when you plan those lessons, it's Thinking about what would work for one kid probably work for a lot of them. Same with audiobooks. I teach literature, and so I usually would have an audiobook on the side for a student I knew that would need this audiobook, but instead of just saying, you can use it, I offer it to all. And believe it or not, like, people who I didn't think would want to use an audiobook, use an audiobook, and guess what? They still get to the same goal. So, next slide, please. And it isn't just all fluff. It isn't just, I think this is going to happen because I think this is what it works. There is the science behind it. The parts of our brain, as you can see labeled here, recognize different things. So this kind of goes along with the UDL framework, the guidelines, which I didn't show up here, but again, you can go on CAST and look at. It works on the why of learning, the brain, that part of the brain, I guess. That's what triggers the why. There's the what of learning, and then the how. And you can go in and see all the science behind this neuroscience of how our brain learns and what would work best for those parts of the brain, basically.
And it's also going through this, we're finding that if we don't use all of these parts of the brain, that material's not sinking in. And so when we see kids get these big gaps, it's because they weren't able to engage each component of the brain for that particular content piece. And then, so now we're just trying to train and focus our teachers on implementing each of these when they're trying to present that information. So, we're presenting it in a way that it will stick and we won't create those gaps that'll just build as they get older and keep progressing through the school.
Multiple means of the way that we represent it, the multiple means of how they can represent it to us, and multiple ways to engage them. Those are the 3 different ways. This one is so fun, I know. This is what I led our staff through at a staff meeting, a conference that I went to, talked on this, and it was eye-opening for me because I got what UDL meant, I understood I need to do this, blah, blah, blah. I could see the reasoning behind it, but then once I did this activity, I was sold. So, there are 2 scenarios. So my first scenario, what I did with my teachers at the staff meeting is I treated them like they were my students. And I put this on the board and I said, all right, the goal for today, again, focusing on the goal, is that you, by the end of class, are going to do that dance right there. The Fortnite Orange Theory dance, I think is what it's called. Okay. And you should have seen, if I made you guys do this right now, I can already see the faces. You'd be like, no. And you'd be like, why would I need to do that, right? But that's what a lot of the kids think when they come into my class. Why do I need to do that?
I'm not doing it.
Yeah, and so when I said that in front of my staff, they're like, yeah, no thanks. And so I said, okay, here's how I'm going to teach you. Here are 3 videos. Go watch these videos, learn it, and then when we come back, you're going to do it. You're going to stand up, and we're going to do it in front of the class, and I'm going to grade you by that. And so, gave them about 5 minutes to do it, and then half of them weren't even looking at the videos, they were just checking email.
One teacher slammed his computer shut and was like, I'm not doing it.
Yes.
I was like, that's what we see.
And what's funny is those teachers that I noticed doing that are ones that always complain, why are these students not doing what I say, all this sort of stuff. So, then I said, okay, you get up and do the Fortnite dance. And they said, no. I said, 0, next. And I moved on. And you know how that is. We don't want our students just to get 0s and move on to the next. We know we don't want to leave anybody behind, blah, 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 blah. So that's one scenario, okay? The other scenario, this UDL mindset scenario, would look more like, okay, our goal is to learn this dance, okay? Now, I'm going to show you more than just a video to learn this dance. Maybe one day, multiple means of me representing it, we watch those videos. Maybe one day you work with a group. Oh, and that was another thing. I told them they couldn't talk to me. That was pretty fun too. So they were chatting. I go, no! I was like, stop chatting right now. And that's what we do a lot too as teachers. We're like, stop talking. But group work is fine, especially when they're learning something new and challenging each other's ideas. There are so many ways that I could represent or teach the dance, I guess. Then, on the flip side, how they show me that they learned the dance, they don't have to stand up and show me the dance. That probably give half of them a heart attack. As I'm thinking about the barriers, I could name a dozen kids in my class who are not going to stand up and do that dance, and they're all going to get zeros. Is that what I want their report card to reflect? Absolutely not. And so I want their report card to reflect their knowledge, or the knowledge on those goals, right? And so maybe they created a slideshow of themselves of the dance moves, because that shows me they learned it. Or maybe they record themselves at home and show it to me in a video later. So many different options. Again, choice, choice, choice. So I ask, which will create those ideal students with the engagement piece, those things that you wish all students would do? Which scenario would do that, right? Which would make sure that our students are truly showing us what they know, and which will create this atmosphere of engagement, this love of learning, of wanting to be here, and challenging the skills that they already hone and can improve upon. It's obviously the second one, right? The UDL mindset. And we have to be culturally responsive to that. And I like to, or I don't like to necessarily call it traditional teaching, but it is the teaching that we're used to doing. You sit in your seat, you listen to me, and don't move, right? You take my instruction and we do it my way. Where this is more, we're doing it together, we're learning how we can represent our ideas in different ways, and that's just being culturally responsive. We have to be aware things are changing, right? Okay. And to my room. Okay, another part of this UDL mindset is, again, choice. And so flexible seating is a huge component of the UDL. And so over the Christmas break, I actually ended up completely redoing the room, I guess, in its way. I slowly worked my way there, where I had the original individual student desks, and I had one comfy area in the back with a little couch. And then I transferred into like more of a working table, because I noticed I'm going to say nobody, but some kids just do not like that little space there. And so we tried the desk with two comfy areas in the back. And so then we transferred to this, where it is complete flexible seating. As you can see, there are couches, there are little comfy benches. There are raised desks in the back for students who still like to have that desk feel to it. But it's also raised because there's studies that show kids like to stand. And believe it or not, it's true. I've seen it happen. I wouldn't like to stand personally, but they like to stand. They're more fidgety, and so they stand and work better. There are places where it's more of a, not social, but where a bigger group could work, and then there are comfy areas where it's more individualized. So having all those different options, I was scared. I really was. I was scared. But I researched how much it benefited the students. And so, like I said, gave it a little try here and there, really focused on those rules of respect and of each other, not fighting over things, and of the actual furniture itself, because a lot of it I brought in myself, and they respect that. But I was scared, and so when I first started it, when we came back, I have seen that engagement piece more than I ever imagined. They come in excited. I have kids that come in just to be in my room for like 1 minute that they have in between their class periods, and then leave because they just feel that relaxed. And so that goes back to that neuroscience again of feeling that emotional connection to their learning, and that's how they feel when they walk into that room. They feel like they have their choice. They don't feel like what I hear all the time is school's prison and this place just makes me makes me feel like I just have to do busy work and get stuff done. It doesn't feel that way anymore when they walk in. Guess what? They're still doing the same work, but they get to choose where they sit. And if they misbehave in their seat, one of the rules is I can move them. And so it's all still flexible in that area. So there's some pictures in my room, and then there's one more where I have some of them working. Some of them like to just sit on the floor. And you can see they choose all different areas, and some days I say, hey, pick a new spot today, and they all find a new spot. And I said, if you think that couch right there is the best seat in the house, somebody else probably thinks that too. So let's give them a chance to sit there as well. So it's been awesome to see them work collaboratively and to hone, again, into who they are and figure out what kind of learner they are. So I think that's mainly all the big points. Right? Now, if you guys have any questions. because I'm sure there are.
It's been a success with UDL in a state that it could be promoted as an asset to the school corporation. I had a conversation with an individual who's very passionate about education, the idea of inclusion, and she brought up UDL. Said there's this new fascinating trend that's happening in education, and I said, explore UDL. Mind blowing. For students going to a different corporation, but in my mind, I thought, could we somehow package this and promote the ideas and programs we're implementing to better impact their classroom? Are we in a state that we can promote, or are we still getting our own feet?
I think that as an administrator, I could support that. I could say this is what we're doing and this is where we're going. I think that for my staff, I think that they are still a little hesitant to say, yes, I'm doing this, even though I go in to observe them and I go, that's UDL, that right there. What you just said to that kid, that is the UDL mind frame. And so I think right now we're still working on that training and that shifting of the mindset of our teachers. Once we get a little bit more of them understanding fully what UDL is and recognizing the work that they're already doing, I think that we would be there. But yeah, I think to like go and publish everything out that we are a UDL school, I think the admin would say, yes, we're doing it, but I think our teachers would be like, I don't know what they're doing, that's not us yet.
And to add to that, another good source other than the CAS website is the TCSC website. It's a school at Bartholomew County. I did get to go down there with my other colleagues who are the high school and elementary chairmen. And we got to see it in action, and they represent themselves as the UDL school. And if you go to their website, they have all the things that they do on there. But it took them 11 or 13 years to get to where they are today.
And to undertake something like this, usually it's a 5 to 7 year process.
We're our first year.
And Bartholomew County took 13 years because they're one of the first in the country to embrace the UDL model. And UDL basically, has a federal program, so it's a very nice program. Bartholomew County is a national recognized school, and down there in November. We have plans to send our administrators down there later on in the year so they can see it in action. Bring it back. So we're working with Hamilton Heights as well. So that will create a niche in this area for the two schools to replicate. Eventually, yes, but we don't want to get our teachers comfortable with it. Actually, one of those exceptions is very passionate about it and does a great job with it. And we're not going to rub off on any of our other staff members.
My concern would be, I'm not going to wait 5 to 7 years to start promoting this.
Oh, no, I don't think that we need to do that.
I think it's enough to say to Indiana that we're doing it. I'm not saying we have to suggest we're an expert.
We are.
The fact that we're even attempting to do UDL is so much different than a lot of other school corporations. So to me, that's remarkable in and of itself, because it suggests that we're willing to explore new creative opportunities that better impact the classroom.
Right, and we met as UDL committee just today, and then that influences what we do with our professional development committees and how we set up those e-learning days. And that's kind of the point where the admin we are trying to present to the teachers in a UDL format so that we're giving them as many examples and experiences in it as possible, and then that comes back, into their classrooms, and monkey see, monkey do. Come on, let's do it. So I think that we are there. I think to say that we're doing UDL, and that's kind of where Mr. Emsweiler kind of asked me what I would like to see. What are my important things for a new superintendent? And for really the one and only thing I was like, they have to be UDL supportive. Even if they don't know fully what UDL is, they have to be supportive of it because it is important for our kids. It does embrace social emotional learning. It embraces positive behavior, all of our MTSS stuff, all of these buzzwords that we're hearing and that we know, it takes them all and it puts them in the same category, and it lets our teachers focus on that one thing and hitting all those others. And then all the work that we've done with this so far, if we don't have a superintendent that's behind us on UDL, then we just wad that up and throw it away and start fresh. And I think that it would crush some spirits. That's fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
At some point, you have to measure the learning, right? That's in tests. So you pull them back into the more traditional, all right, we have to take a test. Is that like a downer for the kid?
She's my really go-to girl, so.
I don't like the word test necessarily, just assessment in general, because there's different ways to assess.
Right.
And so, for example, I teach poetry, and so at the end I have them memorize a poem and have to speak it in front of the class. Again, that goes to traditional, like this is what you're doing, and this is how we're going to do it. However, like I said, I know those kids already who are going to go up to me and say, I'm not doing that, I'm not standing in front of the class. So I do small assessments as we go. And so maybe they share it with me one-on-one, we have little practices as we go, and then eventually I have that one big assessment that I do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I kind of can break it up into different ways instead of just doing it in one way.
And some of the other things is that, like, maybe a kid would record themselves with their computer, because we have this great technology piece, and then email that to Mrs. LeCount, and she can review their, if it's just that they can memorize and present one, then, doing it by video would be better. Or, if it was an analysis of it, instead of creating the poster up on the board, maybe the kids record, in Google Slides, they record a whole presentation and send it in. So then you're getting some of that anxiety away from those kids, but you're still getting that goal that you wanted.
And a big question I get with that is, well, aren't we just dumbing it down for them? Aren't we just letting them get away with not being able to speak, and yes and no. Like, absolutely, I don't think that we're dumbing anything down, but, let's get real. How many of you would want to get up and do that, you know what I mean? You would want to work your way to that. And if my goal was a speaking and listening goal, absolutely, you're getting up and you're speaking. But again, I'm not going to just have them do that on the first try. I'm going to work them up to it, because I know who they are, I know their barriers, and it takes some time for a teacher to care about that. You may have to learn how to care first and then teach that second. And so, yeah, it's pretty normal.
And how many middle school teachers are implementing this in some measure?
I would say about 50% of our staff that I could go in and solidly look and watch a UDL lesson. I think about 5 of them recognize that they're doing it. But I think that the thought is there. Of that remaining 50%, I think that they're interested but scared because it's something new. And it's not just, experienced teachers versus inexperienced teachers. One of my other go-to UDL teachers has been in our school one of the longest times. So it just kind of deals with their anxiety level and because there's a little bit of control that you give
So they have
off.
barriers too.
And educators, we like to be in control. Why else would we stand in front of 30 kids in a room and be the boss? We like control. So, we're trying to get that and shift that mind frame.
It goes along with class management too, or it helps with class management, like tremendously. I don't ever like to oh yes, I'm the best class management teacher there is. However, I do find when I let go of some of that control, not letting go of expectations, I still hold them to my expectations, but when I let it go and notice that, yeah, they're a kid too, they're gonna make mistakes and I'm gonna level with them on that. I talked to Mr. Hemswell about this, and if I was admin, I'd be holding my admin to these expectations that we set as teachers. If you're not here on this time, and if you're on the computer, you're doing what I'm doing, you're not on your email, and you're not doing this, there are all these expectations the traditional teacher holds to their students, and once that student makes one little tiny mistake, this 13-year-old kid, it's doomsday, basically. And so letting go of some of that little control, or if I can't hold it to my expectation, I gotta have some grace for them too. And so that lets some of that classroom management unfold too, which ties into this UDL of the emotional connection.
But we're also seeing this big push in corporate America, right? Where we're seeing the more flexible work environments, where they go say it's the same thing.
Right.
So now you're losing control, and so you find that people are more productive in a comfortable environment.
Yeah.
So we're seeing the same trend now in education.
In middle school, we talk about like, be professional. I'm going to assume that you're professional until you prove me otherwise, you know? So like you need a little bit extra time because you didn't get these things graded. Okay, what supports can I give you to do that? And so being that professional and giving my staff members that choice and that freedom, I think is also trickling down when they, and building that safe environment for my staff to go and jump and take these risks. I don't think that Mrs. LeCount would have over break gone in and, I mean, really came back from break and she's like, you gotta come see my room. You gotta come see my room. And so like I go down and see her room and then I'm all of a sudden jumping like, this is awesome. But I don't know that she would have done that if I hadn't have built that, you know, safe space for our teachers. With the new admin coming in and then going and completely changing your classroom in the first 6 months is a little risky, but she did it and it worked. So.
And going with that whole respect level of things. For example, she's a brand new boss to me. When she comes in as a brand new boss, with respect, yes, I respect her because she's my authority. Just like a student coming to me, yes, I'm your authority, you need to respect me. And that's where a lot of the teachers stop. Where I respect her yes, because she's my authority, but also because she didn't come in and just like make me feel like degraded, and she encourages me and she gets on my level and things like that. So same with my students. Not only are they respecting me because I'm their authority and listening to me, which is what we always want, right, with that control, but I also am there for them. I've earned their respect because of the actions that I've went through with them. The one-on-one conversations. When I do book meetings with them, I'm one-on-one with them and listening and all that kind of stuff. So.
Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is this just going to be for the middle school or is
No.
division school-wide?
This is K-12. So we're working on it in every building. I was just super excited about her classroom and the work that she's been doing, and we had the spotlight this month, so she got to present on it. But yes, it is completely K through 12. We're seeing this popping up in.
Well, and another population of children I didn't hear you mention is I've just talked to a lot of parents that go to various schools just to get an idea of what, schools are doing.
Around here, yeah.
And I spoke to several that are at Hamilton Heights, and they've seen the biggest positive impact on their autistic children,
Yes.
the ADDs, because they have that ability to, if
I
they
plan
want to
for
stand
one.
at the desk
I
or
plan
sit
for
at-
one, I plan for all.
Yeah,
Yes.
and they're giving me a specific example of a child there that was autistic, didn't engage, and since the program, they've just been blown away by more outgoing,
Yes.
more, yeah.
And that's part of, because you would think that sometimes students with autism want more structure, but they really want to be understood. And so UDL is focusing more on that particular child and their needs. And so when we start doing that, we can see that they would prefer to sit up and we have a student in class and his preference, he has an imaginary box in the back of each of his room and he pays attention the entire time and he's at the back so he's not, but that calms him enough when he gets work done. He just goes back there and he still fully 100% participates in the class activity, but we've made that slight adjustment for that student.
They've just been blown away. And because a lot of our children these days are so mainstream.
Yes.
The ADD diagnoses and just various other learning
Right.
challenges are mainstreamed in the class, but they just really, which could speak to the marketing piece too, really. I mean, if, you really, this is our vision and get in on the ground floor, grow with us, kind of, really.
Special education students, they still get their specific accommodations and things with testing and stuff. But I also keep those accommodations in mind for all and certain.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, other items, you have the department reports from Mr. Wessel, Clark, Mr. Pearl, Mr. Gingrich, facilities, food service technology respectively. Any questions on any of those?
So I
See, our bus route is to Hines, and we have 3 students out of the 8. How many kids go in the morning?
Oh, that's it. I'm not prepared to answer that. I don't know. But 3 in the morning, and we're working on the afternoon. The counselors are trying to reach out, email, and such. Like I told you when we presented that open for, but 3 students are benefiting right now, and I was going to tell you I appreciate that.
Questions? Financial report, 2019, we ended the year with cash balance of $553,000. Making cash balance less than last year, but we spent just over our percentage general fund by almost 1%, which is higher than previous years. And of course, this is what we need the additional appropriation last month to meet those expenses. So in December, our revenue exceeded our expenditures by almost $25,000. So that's good. Last month, the board gave permission to transfer funds on the appropriation accounts. This folks will provide you with a summary of those actions that were taken. Ensure the account balances at the end of the year with 0 or positive cash balance. Any questions on financial report? Just very quickly, again, we got to start back in the second semester. We're very fortunate with weather. Starting winter weather. We haven't had any back in December, so hopefully that will continue. And then also announced that prior to this meeting, we did have dedication of the remodeled weight room at the high school. So appreciate the nice turnout, especially from Steve Powell families, in which the weight room is dedicated. So we appreciate his contributions to the school community, and his family was very appreciative. And of course, we appreciate Jason Smith and his contribution, $35,000 towards the purchase of the equipment, and the Clinton County Foundation and Women's Fund that provided a grant to Mr. Cole for $15,000 that went towards cardio equipment. We had 2 treadmills, 2 cycling bikes, and 2 ellipticals, and it's encouraging not just the athletes, but all the students to get to the weight room and work on the fitness and wellness. And we got a lot more girls going up there and using some of that cardio. So that's great. One of the girls coming down, we were going, yeah, we want to go up demonstration on it. Some of that, she's tired, she's ready to get out of there. So that's a great addition to our corporation. 0% improvement that weight room for the students, and we have all our kids and our staff and others taking advantage of this.
All right. Old business tonight, new business. It is consideration to give permission to advertise additional appropriations in the rainy day fund. Each year, the administration asks for additional appropriations from the rainy day fund. In order to send money from the rainy day fund, it must be appropriated, and this is the process to make that happen. Rainy day fund can be used only in case of emergencies, and although we do not expect or do not hope to have to use those funds, it is important to appropriate funds in case an emergency should arise. Emergencies are defined by board resolution as either a reduction in revenues or an increase in expenditures that was unexpected and could not be predicted. These additional appropriations will be advertised, and the public hearing will be held during next month's meeting. It is recommended grant permission to advertise for additional appropriations from the rainy day fund. These additional appropriations will be advertised in the public hearing will be held next month. Motion and second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Next is consideration to approve the mileage rate reimbursement for 2020. Mileage may be reimbursed at a rate established annually by board policy, which is policy 6550. Federal rate of reimbursement as of January 1, 2020 is 57.5 cents per mile. This is down 0.5 cent from last year. Our goal is to provide mileage rate reimbursement equal to that of federal rate. It is recommended that the board establish a rate of 57.5 cents per mile reimbursement. Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second to discuss the mileage rate. All in favor, say aye. Consideration to give permission to advertise for going to training bids for 2020, 2021. It's been 1 year, right? Commission is being asked to advertise for mowing and trimming bids. This will be done in the 2020 growing season. It would be a 1-year contract. Bids will be approved at the February 2020 board meeting. It is recommended the board give permission to advertise for the mowing and trimming bids for 2021. Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next is consideration to give permission to advertise for fertilization and weed spraying bids, also for 2021. Permission is being asked to advertise for fertilization and weed spraying bids. This will be done in time for the 2020 growing season. It would be a 1-year contract also. Bids will be approved at the February 2020 board meeting. Recommended that the board give permission to advertise for fertilization and spraying, weed spraying bids for 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye. Next is consideration to approve the renewal of our workman's compensation insurance. It is recommended we continue with this insurance through the Indiana Schools Education Services Center. The estimated annual premium for this year is $54,543. It is recommended that the board approve the renewal of our workman's compensation insurance through ISES. Motion is second to approve or renew our insurance with workers' compensation insurance. All in favor, say aye. Next is consideration to approve the purchase of new band uniforms. Mr. Steve has made presentations to the board about DHS's band department efforts to raise funds to purchase new band uniforms. Indiana law allows coastal corporations to appropriate operation funds to do this specifically for band uniforms. Mr. Steve is requesting the school corporation appropriate $15,000 for this purpose. It is recommended we appropriate $15,000 from the operation fund to purchase of band uniforms for the high school.
With this 15,000, where does that get us to go?
It finishes.
Finish?
Yeah, so we've got, if it gets approved tonight, we've got a rep that can come in tomorrow. We can place the order tomorrow and they'll be here by the time the school year ends. That'll be it.
To approve.
Second.
One other question, there is also a percentage discount if we place the order by.
Yeah, if we pay the whole thing in full, and the boosters have the other 26,000 lined up already, but if we pay it in full, it takes 3% off, which is what we're trying to aim for right now.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Disappointed, I'm disappointed Parker's not modeling you guys.
Next other matters, 24.
I just want to make a special note to Mr. Steve, raising $25,000, $26,000 is no small effort, especially when you're trying to include the boosters and the students. So your dedication to do that, I think it's welcome, that kind of dedication, but also you need to be congratulating you and your students, those involved. So thank you. Appreciate that.
I'd like to add too. I've been doing fundraisers a lot in my life in different areas. Think outside the box, and I like it.
I was their family. I have a feeling I know exactly what you're talking about, which was brought up when I walked in. I scoffed at the walnuts the first time. And I ate my, oh, well that, yeah, there's that one too. But, yeah, no, I ate my words big time on the walnuts. But I appreciate that.
Advisory committees, the personnel, or actually business affairs meetings next Monday, February 17th, facility and technology meetings, and then March 16th, personnel meetings. Other things.
Damon, you're off. You're out of time.
Has a presentation of the mousetrap, the 24th to 26th. The next e-learning day is February 3rd. Academy Superintendent, the next meeting is February 11th. Next up is community comment.
And February 17th, President's Day, most likely we will be in school that day. So, make up for what we're going to mention. We have any other days, that's Black Day, so Tuesday, Black Day, is school session on February 17th.
Is there a standard meeting time for these committees?
Next is comments from the community. From the list.
Laura Secom.
Just real quick, about what you were just saying about the Olympian school on President's Day to make up for November 19th when that school and the teachers went to Indy, right? I thought they already made that up on the 20th of December when they were supposed to be out on the 19th.
Well, basically what they did, they pushed it back. So because students were supposed to be in school on the 6th, so they did not attend that day. So we have a day to make up, yes.
Okay. I had a few clarification questions when you were talking about budget issues. And you had said that we're spending more money on students than we're taking in. Do you have any, like, what the reasons are as to why we're spending more on students?
No, we have the cash balances, and we go into negotiation, and we're going to tap into those cash balances, and educational fund or any days to boost the pay of our teachers, that one day, so, yes.
I just caught my attention. I didn't know what extra expenditure per student was. And also, real quick, getting to the budget here. I'm in the understanding that I guess there's like some kind of large payment due for solar panels coming that's due, and I was just curious, given that large amount, if, as you put it, would that cause a red flag or financial distress?
That's being paid for out of cash balances and debt service.
Okay. And lastly, I just wanted to just briefly ask some questions about policy number 2700 about the annual performance report. And I'm reading that it's, to be published, for presentation to the public and stuff, and anybody can get a copy for free when it's available in March. How would parents be able to get a copy of that?
That's usually published in the newspaper.
It says we can actually, okay, but it says we can actually get our own copy.
And it's usually available through DOE as well, so,
DOE.
Department of Education.
Okay. All right. That's it. Thanks. Thank you.
Matt Higginbottom.
I didn't think I was going to have a question, but I did. Look at me. So as we were talking about the AEM, we're declining. I had a question. Is the preschool program we have counted towards our AEM? So what funding do we receive towards that program?
We work on trying to get the federal funding, and I know Mrs. Cecil working on that before she left, and Mrs. Bacon is kind of taking that over to work with the state to get additional funding from that. But right now, it's very limited. Federal programs like hoops to jump through and requirements to get that, and that's what they work with those requirements to get additional funding.
So essentially we're going to make that set.
That program is important to bring those kids in, prepare them for kindergarten.
I mean, have we seen some may argue one kid coming to it's worth it, but have we seen substantial use of the program to justify its existence?
I think your teacher would probably say yes. And a conversation with them late. Those kids are participating in that program, other preschool programs, they say they benefit. But those kids do not have a foundation to maintain their.
Okay, so I know when it started, we looked at it and couldn't afford it comparative to what we have in town already. So the students that are coming, if they're all scholarship, who's picking up that bill? Does the school even?
Yeah, still picking that up, yes.
Okay. All right, that's all I have.
We struggled to get attendance. We advertised, and the first year, it was not well attended.
Second year was better, this year was
Coming in,
kind of, we were 12,
I'll take a one.
right, with me, yes.
Is there work, is there, the availability to work with United Way, they have the pulled up to on my way pre-K, I don't know if that's complementary to what the school does.
Right, and that's through the Department of Education, so we've had ladies coming in.
Yeah, and we have a date coming up in February where we can level up through hospitality. And so then after we jump through that hoop, we were at level 1 last year, and it's kind of a process that you have to go through certain steps. And so we've gone through the steps, and then we have another hoop to jump through in February, basically to qualify. And that's when we can talk about possible funding.
Yeah.
So.
Perfect. Good job.
Rick Chandler still there? He's on you. Ken Angman. Am I it?
You're up. Oh, okay. As many of you know, that we have a new city administration that started just a couple of weeks ago. He's excited about a lot of things. He's tasked me to see what we can do. He wants to establish a mayor's youth council, and he's very adamant about it. He's very excited about it. So I'm coming more as information tonight to just let you know that he's asked me to start that process. I've already talked to Rick. This is purely on the drawing board. I have no idea what it's going to look like. Several communities around have student councils that kind of cooperate and are involved in city government. Don't know how many kids are involved or really what the intent is. He's hoping that some of them will become a little bit involved in city politics and will attend some meetings. He has already said that he is interested in supplying some funds for them each year to develop their own city project and let them lead it and guide it and develop it and institute it. So that's the information part. The ask for help part. I really would like to have a member of the school board help me do this for a couple of reasons. One, it creates a link between the city council, the school board, and the student mayor youth committee or council. And it just creates that communication piece that Tom is really looking for, so that we can brainstorm and collaborate on more things than we have in the past. So if I'm it, I'm done. Unless a school board member wants to raise their hand up.
Someone to nominate themselves to help you?
If you want to nominate somebody, I'd be more than happy to.
I wouldn't leave the microphone until somebody.
Oh, you wouldn't leave. Okay. Well, typically I'm accused of talking too much when I get up in front of people. So I'm not leaving, I guess, until somebody wants to help me.
Obvious selection or not? Is there some reason that wouldn't be good?
No, just as there's another member here that wanted to participate.
I'm not that hard to
be
work
involved
with.
regardless.
I would be your deputy.
Okay, Jim, I'll help you. Write down my community, my vision. It's a great opportunity to the state where they can win grant funds.
Yes.
To help fund these types of things.
Okay. Okay. Tomorrow.
I got one recommendation maybe. Include the middle school students as well.
That conversation will be, yes. How many students be on the council? I mean, that's all up to, whatever we decide. He's very excited. Mayor Tom is very excited about getting input from the students. He really is.
Rob Cochran. Good? Thank you. Luann?
Earlier this year, there was some discussion about negative balances on some of the student lunches. And I know that some community people gave money for that fund. Is the fund solvent now?
Adam, Adeline?
No, I'm over here.
Oh, okay, okay.
Hi, Mayor. Yes, it was, when we asked for any help that we wanted to give, the fund was extremely low, but was still solid to begin with. But since then, we've had a positive balance the entire time. So, yes, we are getting low. I believe the low 3 digits at this point now. But we've had enough since inception, this year at least, to not have to turn away any bills. So it's a strong yes, and continued help for the next few months will be greatly appreciated.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Sorry.